one taught me how to have a music conference, I just made that up.
Yeah.
Or how to make a CD. When we were 9 years old as a church, we recorded our first live CD. I didn't know what in the world I was doing, but I knew somebody who knew. And I would beat their door down and ask them questions. How do you do this? Will you come help me? Will you help me? Will you come play this? How much will this cost? Okay, would you take $50 a week until we can get that paid for? Just figuring out, digging, scratching, and clawing.
Ask questions.
From nothing.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Success leaves clues, okay? If people are doing it, they leave clues on how to do it, or you just go ask them how to do it.
Okay, so maybe just a little bit about you guys. Like, how did you guys start in music ministry? How did you guys enter into this music culture that you guys have really surrounded yourselves with? And when I ask a question, you can answer or you can answer. It's for both of you.
Okay.
You want me to start?
Well, let me start and then you take it.
Well, I don't. It's kind of a blended question because me as an individual, my shaping through the years, that story and how it coincides with evangelizing, and then home missions work, and then we get into vision casting and culture building inside the church. So I don't know how far back you want to go.
Okay.
I traveled for 10 years, actually 8 years as a full-time evangelist. Okay. I was licensed, received my license with UPC here in California.
Oh, okay.
And she was my high school sweetheart. She was 12 years old when I was a senior.
So wait, are you originally from California? No,
but I'm from Texas. I'm from Houston.
Okay.
Our families know each other, go back 80, 90 years. Wow. Our grandmothers are best friends. But I didn't meet her until I was 18 or 17. And I told my best friend one day I'm going to marry that girl. She was 12.
He's a man of his word.
And so.
Wait, she was 12, you were?
17.
Okay.
Yeah, but
I was a senior in high school. Yes.
So. And tomorrow's our 23rd wedding anniversary.
Yes. Which congratulations.
Thank you. So anyway, I came back to Texas and we had been out quite a few times through the years. And when I went back to Texas and was flying out preaching revivals around the country, I started dating her, and I was basing out of Houston again. So.
I was at Brother Kilgore's school, and I was at James Kilgore's church.
Yes.
And so I came up in a church with a strong worship culture, good music, and good worship experience, because they're not always together. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get one, you don't get the other.
That's very true.
And Brother Kilgore, and he was his pastor as well at that season towards the end, but he always cultivated an atmosphere of worship that was heavily carried by the music, but not totally dependent upon it. Mm-hmm. And then I went to a Christian school, and Lyndall Anderson, who's the Dean of Music at IBC now for many years, he was my junior high music teacher and high school music teacher. And so he taught us choir, and he entered me to sing at these ACE competitions, like without my permission, like, if you're going to pass the class, you're singing a solo. And I'd be like, what? I was nervous and scared, if you can believe that. I was introverted. I still get nervous and scared, but I was more shy. Yeah. And so he entered me. So that kind of taught me skills and also a little bit about performance, which is part of it, you know. And then I joined the praise team there for many years, and they had a choir, and we toured, and I was in their youth choir for many years, adult choir, praise team. So I was used to being in music culture, good music culture in church. And so when we got married, though, I was a high school algebra teacher, and we were traveling, and then I was the only person all of a sudden singing, and it wasn't a big live tabernacle setting. It was all kinds of churches, and I kind of started having a meltdown. Like, we were engaged actually, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't be a preacher's wife. I can't do it. And so he was giving me these pep talks about, you tell me you're custom built for this, you're born for this. I was like, I don't know. Yeah.
And I forced her to record a CD.
Forced by gunpoint. It sounds so harsh. No, he was the one that I had recorded, like, on our church's youth choir album.
And sang with other artists.
I sang for, I don't know what in the world I was doing at that age doing that, but he knew we were going on the road. We got a fifth wheel, we're gonna be full time. We needed some extra income, you know. We got flower pins, hair clips, and CDs, you know, let's make some money. Right. So back then, I mean, stuff has evolved so much since the producing the production of music. Because back then it was soundtracks, like you would lease the DAT. And so whatever I was singing as an evangelist, when it was my turn before the preacher, I would sing my soundtrack. And those are the songs that I picked to go on my album. I was like, all the songs I'm singing, I'm just going to get tracks for those. We're going to record them. And then we'll have something to sell. That was the motivation.
But you kind of kickstarted
and he
that
really,
recording.
I was like, no one's going to
album.
buy a CD from me. He's like, yes, they will, do it. And I was like, okay. So we did a low budget, just tracks, you know, and not a lot of creativity required. But we did it, and we started. People bought them. I was shocked. Like, people are buying my music. And
But was this original music, or was
this was just the tracks.
Just okay.
Yeah. And so that was album one, and then we go back to the same churches.
Yeah.
He was kind of on a circuit,
Yeah.
and like they already bought my old CD. I better get a new one. So we would crank out another one.
Yeah.
So like the first three projects are really just part of
Soundtracks.
soundtracks, trying to build our
Just covers.
income. But I didn't realize I was building a listening audience, you know. And then as things began to progress, I got a little more confident. Thought, well, this time around, let's do the tracks, but let's include 3 originals. Just dip your toe in the water. Because back then, people want to put a CD in, they want to hear a song they know.
Yeah.
It wasn't as accepting of new music. Because all new music is almost off-putting.
Right.
Culture's changed since then.
Yeah.
It was kind of, we were working our way into it. And to have live musicians and adding background singers, just I kind of just evolved as I got experience. I felt more confident doing that. So
We recorded those in Mississippi as well.
David Hutt.
Yeah,
was my
David Hutt.
producer. He's been my producer for
David
20
and the
years.
Giants.
I
Wow.
don't know if you know who that is, but
Yeah.
so by the time we came to Katy, I already had 3 or 4 CDs.
4.
And so I don't know if you want to say this part, but when we were just at a church in a day building, very small.
We were a home missions church. We started a church.
And we had gotten approved for home missions and got the church in a day. And first of all, one of our first buildings had 4 pews, and like the restroom was right by the pulpit. And people looking at me, I was like,
Made it for a
I
very
can't go lead
awkward
worship to
service.
them.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you don't have the full
Yeah.
band, the praise team, and the choir. And I was like, I can't do that. I'm not doing that, which sounds ridiculous. But I had no experience in that.
Yeah.
And I just started. And I don't know, the Lord helped me greatly.
Yeah.
But he got up one day in the church today and wrote out a vision about what he wanted to have.
11 pages long, a yellow tablet, business-sized tablet. And this was when we were running maybe 30 or 40 people in the
It's
church.
insanity. People looked at him like, yeah, right.
And I just started almost ever since I envisioned, a Sunday school department that not only provides ministry for the children, but also publishes material, its own material. And one of those things involved the music program. I envisioned a choir. We had no choir, I don't think, at the time, or
We
it was
did.
very.
My first choir had 12 people. We used a soundtrack.
Yeah.
But at the start at the home missions church.
Yes.
And so I envisioned a choir recording CDs.
So we're going to record a CD one day. We're going to host our own music conference someday.
Yes.
We're going to all these outlandish things. And people
With
were like,
30 people.
That seemed out of just.
Yeah, but we already saw
It was.
beyond that.
Yes.
And
And it was at that time, of course, funds are limited. You can't really.
we didn't even have a parking lot. But we were going to
Yeah,
have
exactly.
a
We were walking on pallets to get into the church anytime it rained. But one of the things that was free is vision. You can create a vision and create excitement. So anytime I felt like the message or the service or, just the church, the passion was sort of planing out, I would kept that tablet in the pulpit and I would pull it out and I would just start reading it and just sort of stir up the vision again with the church. It was something that worked for us at that time.
But we kind of had a rule of just no dead church. Like we would stop and start over.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to go home until we have a break.
There's no notch on the belt kind of services. We will have a break. That was one of our core values that we said, one of the unfortunate things that I believe in our movement is people have gotten away from
Sorry, my leg is cramping over here.
Okay. We've gotten away from one of our greatest strengths, and that is a move of the Holy Ghost. And everything is produced and perfect, and we've got a schedule we have to get through. But the truth is, apostolics, Pentecostals, our greatest strength is when the Spirit of God begins to move and interrupt a service. And so we basically decided that every service we have there will be at least one moment in that service, even if we have to shut the schedule down and have everybody just start praying, we will have a breakthrough, what we call a breakthrough moment in every service. And that's sort of evolved into the word kaboom, and we're going to have a kaboom moment.
So is that like your guys' church, like a culture thing?
Yeah, it's a
Whenever
cultural
our
thing.
schedule gets blown up, God interrupts, that's kaboom to us.
That's
and sometimes
kaboom
it means we're on
church.
our face crying, sometimes it means we're shouting it out, but it's just something that, heaven touched earth here. That's kaboom,
Yeah. So
But,
but that's how it started.
Sometimes music facilitates that moment, and sometimes we have to take the music out to get to that moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes it distracts from that moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a video I saw not too long ago. Sometimes people get so caught up in the music itself that they forget what they're singing about. And he was going, "How great is this song? Sing with me, how great is this song?" And that happens. And sometimes you have to recognize, hey, let's
Well,
start over.
by nature, we are creatures of habit. It's so easy to get into a rut. I started my ministry. She talked about her life before, but before I was an evangelist, I started off just leading service. I couldn't get a place to preach to save my life. And I started leading worship service, leading singing. And I'm not the strong one as far as music. I play saxophone and halfway play a few other instruments. But basically, I stay out of the way of our music program.
You're the organizer.
Well, yeah.
Huge supporter.
Yeah, huge supporter, and I believe in it. But
And if you don't like something, let me know.
I will let them know. I will let them know. But my point is that people, you can feel it. If you're sensitive to the Holy Ghost, you can feel it in the service. If people are just in a groove, in a rhythm, nobody's really getting that sincere breakthrough. And I think some of it has to do with the type of songs we sing, whether or not they're vertical songs, horizontal statement songs, declaration songs. And there's all different types. But I think breaking up the routine has got to be, a constant. You have to, anytime that happens, you have to stop what they're doing. I've seen guys tell everybody on this side of the church, get up and trade places with everybody on the other side of the church.
Snap you out of the monotony.
Yes, because it's so easy to get into that rut.
Actually, it's called procedural memory. There's a neuroscience term for it. Like when you drive home and you don't know
how
you got there.
I say that.
And
I call that
it
the
happens in the church and in the worship
all
experience.
of the time.
Halfway through the church, through the service, you realize we're on autopilot.
Yes. Yeah. You'll see it, and people don't recognize it as that. But have you ever been in a service?
They call it going through the motions.
Right. You ever seen where no one's really getting a breakthrough, and then suddenly all the music stops and they go a cappella, and suddenly people are plugged into what's happening. Yeah. That's the reason that's happening.
Breakthrough into
years ago, she was singing a song at a camp meeting in Texas, and it's a great example of this. And it was a great song.
Thank you.
And, she was singing it well, but suddenly her track stops in the middle of it. And, of course, she is having a oh no moment, but she just kept singing. She sang it through the bridge, through the chorus, through the verse. I mean, she just finished it in front of, 3,000 people at Texas camp. And it was the most memorable moment. And we get reminded of that constantly. I remember that time your track stopped. That was powerful because it breaks the monotony.
Yes. But and I almost cringe just seeing this. But what if you hadn't continued? There's people that would have stopped
at a split second to make that decision.
Yeah.
And I believe it was pivotal in helping to shape me. All of those experiences, work together, obviously for good, or they can shape you in a way that would maybe take you a different direction. But at that moment, I was just like, something in me was like, I'm up here to sing a song, and I'm going to finish this song.
Yeah. And
I just carried on. The Lord gave me the strength and the wherewithal to do that.
Right.
And the really atmosphere
completely
shifted.
changed. Everybody was suddenly on their feet. The whole place went crazy, man. It was a powerful move of the Holy Ghost in the service. But it illustrates that point that you cannot be a slave to the systems or the music or the rhythm or the beat. That worship is worship can be assisted with those things, but it's deeper than that.
Yes.
I mean, literally, this is it's eating at you, the layers of it, because music is so important and powerful in worship. And I want to go that direction, but I'm going to go back here real quick when you're talking about being a slave to the music. The tracks that are now out, and loops and playing the tracks.
I was gonna do that.
Okay, so I love that. It's so empowering to small churches, and it makes it sound big. It also makes people who don't have it feel intimidated. Like, why don't we sound like that? And then also, where are all those brass horns coming from?
Right,
You know,
yeah,
what's
right,
going
yeah.
on? I
Where
don't
did
know.
the ooze come from?
Right, it was happening. And I was, as we waded into that, you know, trepidatiously, a few years ago, just like any other church that's, you know, growing and hopefully changing with as technology comes. You know, you look and you adapt. But I was like, we will use them as long as they enhance the worship experience. But at the minute it takes away, and I can't break away, and I want to sing that chorus one more time.
I know.
You're going to stop that thing, and
Yeah.
we're going to go on, because if I don't have the liberty, flexibility to do that, then to me, we're in a box, and we're in a program, and we're no better than any other liturgical, whatever, what's the ritualistic church down the street. So that was kind of my deal going in.
Nothing wrong with the box.
Right.
You got to have a box to get out of it.
Yes.
But to get out of a
plan.
box.
I have set plans, set lists planned for a month in advance. Does that mean I can't pick their song at the last minute? No. But
Churches can't glory in not having a plan.
I still know
That's not a thing to brag about.
people that are picking their songs Sunday morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
You're not praying and fasting that much. But how did was your team praying and fasting, and they were able to practice and give the Lord an excellent offering? No, it's just they play skillfully with a loud noise, you know. And Kenaniah and back in David's choir, he was put over the vocalist, and it says why he was, because he was very skilled at it. You know, it is a skill-based ministry.
Yes.
You know, whatever got up there, she couldn't sing a tune, but everybody was interceding for her. No, but she was so anointed, and I do understand that element of it. It's all beautiful and joyful noise unto the Lord. But as a ministry, it is, and you owe the Lord a return on that investment to give Him your very best. Does that mean we're not going to ever change it or go with the flow of the Spirit? That trumps everything.
Right.
But we should still be prepared to the best of our ability. That's our mindset.
And I love where this is going. And I'm glad that we have kind of like the music ministry part and then the pastoral, because it seems like there's a balance that we have to kind of approach it with, kind of like what you said, with multi-tracks and like all of this going on. And even if you didn't have multi-tracks, well, we got to sing the song from beginning to end.
Yes,
and, you know,
doesn't have to be just like the recording.
Exactly. But then also with that, being sensitive to the Spirit and saying like, okay, this is what the Spirit is calling for. This is what we need to act upon. And the musicians and the singers respond to that as well. So can you guys talk a little bit about, I guess, the balance of a church, of how to approach a balanced service, I guess?
Yeah, I've got something on that, because again, as a pastor, and I see this all the time, it's so easy to allow my personal taste and feelings to overshadow all of the ministry of the church. And unfortunately, what the result of that is that the only people that get ministered to are people just like me. And there are times, and I'll admit it, that our youth choir in the past 20 years has sung songs that I don't get. I'm thinking that's a dumb song. That's a lame song. And yet I'm just enduring it. and yet, as soon as they get done, the youth are laying out on the floor, speaking in tongues for an hour prayer meeting. And so it taught me that variety is I think is critical to connecting with your total audience or total congregation. I don't like the word audience.
Whole demographic.
Yeah. Everybody receives ministry a little bit differently, but it should always be sincere. All ministry, all worship should be sincere. All worship should be heartfelt, and it needs to be vocal at some point and active. But how they receive the messages from the songs, that's going to vary with, every generation is different. Every, culture is different.
When you speak of balance, do you mean like ministering to different demographics and age groups, or
I
are
guess
you talking about
we have
lots
a schedule,
and lots of music? Or?
More like we have a schedule. This is a schedule for Sunday, and then entering that service and still leaving room for the Spirit of God to overthrow the agenda.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That is built into our culture, and all the worship leaders that I mentor and then continuing to mentor, they know I want them to, anytime I'm praying before service or thinking throughout the week, if a song pops into my mind, I will make a kind of mental note of it. Doesn't even have to sing it, but if I'm singing something for the set list, I always approach the pianist or the team and say, if this opens up, we need to have a plan, a flow to, like, what are all the keys, songs we sing in this key? Because you don't want to be jumping around randomly.
Right. Because
So they all need to
that
have
can be disruptive.
It can quench the spirit
Yeah,
and distract people. And even at the altar call, keep in the same key, the same tempo. We can slide all kind of lyrics in there, but we got to keep that same energy flowing, just so we're the soundtrack to their breakthrough.
Right.
And whenever something happens and it snaps them out, we have such little attention spans as it is. We don't want to distract from that then. But the worship leaders, they need to know what key they're in and what songs they can go to. They need to have options at all times.
I like that.
So it's make a set list and then have off ramps, flow songs. We call them flow twos. And so they know going in, they're not just going to get trapped up there, stuck, wondering what is happening.
Yeah.
So they know that it could change. And if we ever get to a point where that is not part of our culture, then I don't
And if
know.
you're talking about culture too, I think it's important to also note that she's not the one making all of those decisions anymore. Now she's training other people, other praise team.
Yes.
She gives them the option of creating set lists.
And I want them to take liberty in the moment to
We encourage that.
tell them to stop the track and discern what's happening. Look at the people, read the room, have situational awareness. Like, is this connecting? And I also have to say that all your music and worship, people that are interested in music mostly are involved in your music department. Everyone else is not. It took you all 3 weeks to learn that song. You got to give these people a minute. They're not your prime music people. They just got off work. They love Jesus. They're going to play along, but they don't know, what the song, you have to teach it to them. So we've made it very comfortable to come out and say, hey, we're going to teach you guys a new song tonight. You're going to love it. You're going to plant that seed, and you guys are doing great. Let me hear you say, yeah. Or if it's a fast song, or this is a song from you to the Lord. Let's make it personal as you learn it. And then you just kind of teach it. We're singing that verse again. This time, try to join in the best you can. And you have to give them that runway to kind of feel comfortable. But after a few services, if it's still looking at you like you fell off along, then
maybe we have
and at the same time, we have songs that we put in timeout because they're getting burnt out. So we oversing stuff. It's just like, we got to put that thing. Freedom is, sorry, Eddie, I love you, buddy. But freedom is still in timeout because we wore it out. There's a few songs. I'll think about one recently that is on the verge of getting wore out. We were talking about it the other day. But that was the biggest one I could think of. Waymaker, almost like, it's more of a moment song now. At altar, if it just feels right, but I'm not going to put it on the set list because it's just been oversaturated. Kind of like when Break Every Chain came out.
Yes.
I just wanted to.
That was the song for every altar call.
What did we do before this song was written? I don't even know. And so learning when a song is kind of worn out is welcome. And then you bring back some old 5 years ago, 10 years, that are like, then they feel almost nostalgic about this song that's not very old at all, but you gave it room to breathe, and it didn't lose its efficacy. Efficacy. Sorry.
You said, I'm kind of going to go back a little bit when you said that when you started off, you were very introverted. So I know a lot of people that have approached me, and they're very introverted, and they're fearful to kind of step out and to maybe start singing or to lead worship. Can you speak a little bit to that personality of maybe an encouragement?
It is a lot about personality. It's not really an excuse to not, but I learned to be comfortable in who I am, and also my expectations of other people, what their best and most outlandish expression of worship may be dramatically different than mine, based on who they are to begin with. But we all have an area beyond our comfort zone that we need to get comfortable in. To me, the more you sing, the better you sing. You don't get better without experience. You don't get experience without opportunity. So if someone asks you, you say yes. And you watch other singers, and you learn to just have a worship experience for yourself. Because I tell my team almost every week, if you're responding to the audience, they're making you nervous, they're making you mad, they're irritating you, they're leading you in worship. And if you can't lead yourself in worship, you're not much of a worship leader. So you need to be able to take yourself. If nobody else gets a breakthrough after the song, at least I know me and Jesus had a moment.
That's important.
And so losing yourself in that moment and who it's for was the most liberating thing that I've ever done. If they think I look stupid, actually, he preached a sermon about it. It kind of resonated with me but all the people who were really extravagant in their worship that Jesus really liked, all the people criticized. And so it puts you in a good category.
Yeah.
If you look stupid, oh well.
Yeah.
That's less of you. That's humbling to you. Yeah. And that's leads me to another point, but I feel like you got to talk for a while.
Everyone on the platform has got to feel comfortable getting a breakthrough on the platform. That's really, I think, the key. You have, if at least with all of our ministers that are leading service, all of our worship leaders that are leading service, yes, you're singing. Yes, you have to remember your parts. You've got people talking in your ear, but at some point, you have to be willing to throw your hands up and right in front of everybody. Everyone's looking at you. You have got to be able to connect with God in a moment. And, I teach this to our ministers as well. Learn how to get a breakthrough in front of people. It requires a bit of getting used to. I think the personality thing, we could go a whole different direction. Knowing the personalities of your team. We build teams based on personality types, the 4 DISC profile types. Wow. But when it comes to
not music teams, like planning teams and stuff, like anybody of any letter could be on my team. But if there's conflict or communication issues, I can now thankfully be able to get to the root of it and make
very
it
quickly using the DISC profile. But as far as the breakthrough moments, I think it's got to be more than just us doing it on the adult platform. If you don't if you're struggling with your adults on the platform, then shift your focus, because these people are going to die. They're going to get out of music ministry because their voice gets weak or whatever. Eventually, focus on your youth and then focus on your preteen. And really, honestly, you talk about the culture of POK part.
We're 20 years in, and the kids we dedicated are now
leading.
And they're product of that culture that we've built.
But all of that began in really preteen ministry. Wow. 10, 11, and 12 years old. And it was clunky. It was awkward. They weren't that good, but we had a little service for them. And these 10, 11-year-old kids were writing songs, and they were teaching them to their buddies, and they were getting up in front of others and singing these songs in the 10, 11-year-old worship service every single week.
You've heard Ocean Deep?
Yes.
My daughter Savannah wrote that in preteen when she was 12.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, it was, and
my goodness.
So it really.
She's 19 now, and she's a writer, but yeah, she's been writing.
Yes,
and we made it safe and comfortable to do that.
That's for us, at least. I think that's been sort of the secret power, superpower is working with the younger kids and getting them actively engaged in ministry. And, I know we're talking about music ministry a lot, but really any type of ministry, they have got to feel like I'm doing something for the church. Mm-hmm. And so, people may see all the music stuff because it's so public and it's published and it's out there. Mm-hmm. But if you were to be at POK for any length of time, you'd immediately see that everybody in our church wants to get their towel. We have this, I preached a message years ago about the supernatural power of the towel, basically the power of serving. And we've made serving all about getting a job done in the church. We need help in Sunday school. We need help in youth. We need help in ushering. But really, it's not about that. It's about what serving does for you. Mm. And we give people too easy of a pass on serving. If they're not praying, and they say, well, I'm just too busy to pray. We tell them, you're just too busy. You need to pray. Or I'm too busy to come to church right now. Well, you're just too busy. You need to get a different job. Well, I'm just too busy to read my Bible. Well, you're just too busy. Get up early, whatever it takes. But when it comes to serving in a ministry, we give people a pass. And we say, oh, well, I understand. It's, just tithe, attend church, be faithful. And when you can get involved in a ministry team, then awesome. But the truth is, they will never be a disciple of Jesus Christ until they put a towel on their arm. And so that's sort of the culture. So not only do we have a lot of people involved in music ministry, but it's sort of the culture of the church. Even children are finding their towel. We celebrate that. On Sunday nights.
Announce it, and they'll come down like they're winning an Academy Award.
Yeah, we give out these towels.
It's a little blue hand towel. It says First the Kingdom.
And I'll talk about so-and-so is the next individual that I'm going to honor tonight has been working in children's ministry. They've been serving in the youth praise team. They've worked the coffee shop. They've been with us for about 6 years. Every time you meet them, you're going to have a smile on your face. And that person is, and then I announce the name, and everybody stands and applauds. And we hand out, I give them this towel. It's so cheap, but the benefits of it is transformative.
We do for God. I tell my people, we're all worship leaders, and sometimes we use music. How we live our lives, how we serve others, how we conduct ourselves, our service, all of that is an offering, a reasonable service, be a living sacrifice. That's what worship was in the Old Testament. It was an offering. And so, like you say, in nursery, Sunday school, honoring that, not just people on the platform. Actually, the word worship has nothing to do with music. It's used to worship. But worship just means like to honor, to give respect, and it doesn't have to involve music. Music facilitates worship, but it's not totally defined by it. So,
and we've kind of transitioned over into kind of like what I wanted to hit on next, which is songwriting. This culture that you guys have built on songwriting. I feel like there's a lot there that we can go into, but like, I guess, how do I even start it? How did you guys build this like songwriting culture? Like, where does that come from?
It's, I think a lot of it comes, like he was saying, encouraging the young. It always has to be a first time to take a chance, to believe in somebody to write a song. It's a very vulnerable thing to share your song with someone.
Whatever you celebrate, you're going to duplicate.
Exactly.
So don't let them just
Write
do
that
it.
down.
Celebrate it. Make it a big deal. Hang it from the ceiling.
It's called positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
Whatever you want more of, you reward that behavior instead of, like, all the people that are late. Every time you nag on them for being late, you think you're fixing it, you're not. You brag on people who are on time, and you get more people on time.
Yeah.
You know, you reward creativity and vulnerability and sharing your song, and then other people will feel safe to do that too. So finding, when we started Zion Music Conference in 2013, actually I'd gone to another music conference, one that will not be named, north, south, west, east of here. It was an excellent music conference, fantastic. We were little bitty, and I went home. I wanted, not really, but jump off a bridge. It's like, this is impossible.
Yeah.
It just seemed, I felt so overwhelmed and intimidated. I felt like nothing. Like, I can't, I see the song, but from here to there, I don't have the technology and the whatever.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, and even in class, I was like, what's a loop? You know?
Yeah.
And I felt stupid. They weren't trying to make me feel stupid. It was probably in my head. But I wanted to create a place where people like me at the time could ask any question whatsoever, not feel intimidated, to feel safe. You can ask anything. We're all in this together. How can I help you? Or how can I learn from you? You know, and to create that environment. And so we started having Zion. That was a side trail. But we had a songwriting contest because we wanted to encourage, because I know everybody's out there secretly writing songs. No one's asking them for them, you know. And so I was amazed. People kept submitting. They weren't all great, but that was just, I applauded them for taking that step of they're putting it out there. And even when they're a little raw, you know, when you see a finished produced product, that first voice memo did not sound like that.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
it's just a little baby. And then we talk about growing the baby, it's maturing, we're dressing it and growing it. But it has to start somewhere.
So what did you do with the songs? You didn't finish that story.
Okay, so we get all the songs, and we would listen to them, and then we would develop them. We would pick a winner, and that person got to come for free, and we would make a lead sheet for them. We created a demo, and we would sing it at Zion. So their songs never would see the light of day, would be sung at a music conference and sit home with 200 churches to be distributed and get exposure.
Actually, one of my friends won. I forgot the contest. Was it 14 or 15? Kayla Rhodes. She wrote One Done.
Yes, perfect example.
Yeah.
That song has got, and it was already a great song. That was one that came to us pretty strong.
Yeah. We
but it didn't have the
college.
exposure or the platform maybe that it would have had, and to boost her confidence too. And but we are the only ones that had recorded it to make it available. So that and doctrinally sound songs are very important. We will sit in a praise and practice and debate a lyric. It's so annoying, but I will not sing a song I cannot get behind. That's remotely confusing. Because in the early days, whenever the oneness movement became independent, they started having to sing their own songs, and they wrote songs like
The
"Oh
Doctor.
How I Love Him," the "Down from His Glory" with all the oneness lyrics and it's all in Him.
Yeah.
All of that was to teach doctrine, because music is used to teach, even all the way back into the early centuries.
Yeah.
The people of differing doctrines, the minstrels would go around singing. The person with the better song would get more people on their side,
Yeah.
because music is so powerful
Right.
and it's persuasive.
All the way back to the 15th century.
And so, in our age of where everything needs to be either confirming or either confirming or confusing what we believe. How you dress, how you talk, the songs you sing, it's either confirming what we believe or it's confusing it. And so our job is to not confuse, but to confirm. So if anything sounds kind of off or just doesn't make sense, like, I just can't get behind that. I won't give you the examples right now, but so the songwriting, a part of that was I wanted to introduce songs that reflected our doctrine. And then once our church and people saw that there was a place for their music, then they began to be more comfortable sharing it.
Yeah.
And a lot of our songs recently have been birthed out of the altar call experience. If you can start with a tag, like we're just flowing and we're just singing, "How great is our God, da, 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 how great is our God, He's greater than the problems, He's great." They're playing the same chords, and then then you just take that little piece out, and then you build on that. But it's birthed out of a worship moment, out of a familiar sound, simple changes. We're not writing, Beethoven's Fifth or anything. Sometimes it becomes that after a while. You're like, hey, can we just sing something simple? But I think the songwriting contest and culture helped, and then performing and perfecting those songs.
And then the preteen stuff.
And then the preteen stuff. And we've had songwriting groups that I've just started meeting recently, where not any one person is even going to get credit for the song. It's just going to be the church. It's a group church. It's our collective thought for this moment, for this theme. Because sometimes a church will be in a certain season, and we want to write a song that feels right in this moment, or for our culture of our church. Not the same. Some song everybody be singing it. I'll try it, or I just I ain't singing that. I don't like it. And sometimes I feel pressure to sing what everybody else is singing. But
I think every church has songwriters in it. Every church, they're there.
Say one more thing. I'm sorry. I always have one.
Just got to pull them out, though.
There was a day when the Pentecostal movement led in songwriting and production, and it's been a while, but everybody else should sing our songs. And I thought, why not? Why not again? We have the talent. It's unquestioned, the level of talent and anointing. Like you said, there's songwriters out there that yet to be discovered. I was talking with someone last night about Andre Crouch and how he wrote when he was 12, "The blood never loses power." His sister dug it out of the trash can.
Oh, I did not know that.
He threw it away. She dug it out. She said, "What is this?" He played it for her. He said, "That's stupid. It's not good." She said, "No, this is good." She's not famous. I felt the Lord. But she believed in him and encouraged him to use his gift, and that it was good enough, and to give it a try. And I think that's what we have to do, not just the songwriters, but the other people, to make it safe and to believe in him. Say, that is good. I like that. And also be humble enough to say, where can I do better? Help me make this the best it can be. It's touchy.
So how do you, for someone, let's say someone's listening and they're saying like, I have a passion to write songs, right? Maybe written a few poems that I feel like could be songs or whatever, but maybe they don't have the mentor, they don't have the production, or just somebody that could dress it up, or that could,
And that question is easier to answer now than it ever has been before, because
there's so much.
Everybody got a basement studio somewhere, or one in their pocket. It's crazy.
I know.
Like Haley. But used to not be that way. Man, I just lost my thought. But what was the question again?
How do you encourage someone who's perhaps just wanting to be a songwriter?
Now, I will say, not every song is for everybody. Some songs are just, to give me a song, and it was for me and Jesus. That was my prayer time song. It's my devotion song. It's not meant for the world, And some songs, they might be. And some people, people lie to them and told, you've seen, you can sing, they can sing. Somebody's afraid to tell them the truth. And some songs are just not good. But for those who do truly believe they have a gift, no one taught me how to have a music conference. I just made that up. Or how to make a CD. When we were 9 years old as a church, we recorded our first live CD. I didn't know what in the world I was doing, but I knew somebody who knew. And I would beat their door down and ask them questions. How do you do this? Will you come help me? Will you help me? Will you come play this? How much will this cost? Okay, would you take $50 a week until we can get that paid for? Just figuring out, digging, scratching, and
Ask
clawing for
questions.
nothing.
Don't be afraid to
Find
ask
people who
questions.
are success leaves clues. Okay, if people are doing it, they leave clues on how to do it, or you just go ask them how to do it. But these days, I say you get a quality voice memo set to a metronome, set to a metronome.
Yes, very important.
Or a loop. Okay, the apps are. If you don't know yet because you haven't asked somebody. Get a loop and a quality voice memo. If you can get a piano or guitar reference, great. If not, a nice clean vocal, and find somebody who can listen to it and pay the money to make you a demo. They can do it all in the box, meaning all digital drums, guitar, whatever for cheap. Find, right now we're working with Kurt Kenhai in Little Rock. He's doing My Middle Daughter's single, and he can make. You just give him a certain amount of money. I think I say the amount because he may be giving me a discount. I don't know. He may be charging me extra. That he'll give him a quote. Give me $100, $150. It's not like a crazy amount. You have $100 to invest. If you're not willing to invest, then you're not ready.
I would add to that. There's some basic things in songwriting and that are important. One, pay attention to the voice. Don't change voices. If you're singing to God, then don't make a declaration. Then
personhood.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite prevalent. It used to be a rule, but now people doing everything like, I love you, we love God, we love you, Jesus. Like I'm singing to Him, and then I'm singing
the
to God.
perspective.
Who's the audience?
Which person are we?
The audience. That's
some basic core things, and I think, another thing I would say is don't make it too complex.
I got a good one.
It can't be too complex.
It's amazing what songwriters can sing, but you can damage the message by the messenger being not quality. So if you have someone that can sing better than you, or give it the voice that song deserves,
yes,
get them to sing your demo for you, because a lot of people dismiss the song if the presentation is weak. Yeah. Now, somebody can see beyond that, a creative mind. That's a beautiful thing, but not everybody has that gift to see beyond right now. They, it's like the rehab people. They see those houses you flip, they can see what it's going to be. Other people are like, you bought what?
And I think in those early stages of songwriting, like you said, it's so raw and it's so vulnerable. And obviously, like even somebody who can sing, like you're singing and you're like, does this even sound good? You're like, maybe in your head, like, because sometimes I've dabbled in it. In my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I can hear everything. And man, I can hear the choir.
But it's hard to say that.
Right, yeah. So when you're there like, ding, ding, trying to sing it, it's like, I don't know.
And you have to learn to release that song, because the person that is producing it is not going to hear it like you hear it. Right. It's very hard. Yeah. So you need to have that conversation up front. Yeah. I'm very strongly feel about this arrangement, these chords progressions, this tempo, and come to that agreement. Because if you turn it over and it comes back, you don't recognize it.
The work's done on it. A lot of hours have been put in.
Yeah, it's harsh. But sometimes the producer has a better vision for it. Maybe they can make the song better. Doesn't mean they've ruined it.
But sometimes a lot of producers, though, too, are very gifted musicians. And, they can be really driven by music. I want to put 15 layers of music, and it just becomes so complex.
Before you do any of that, ask 2 or 3 people, does this sound like another song you know? Because you might be inspired by something your subconscious picked up in Dairy Queen. And you're like, that's the same song, different, literally copied the song. Or just like enough of it to where like you're almost singing that song. Yeah. And it's okay to have a familiar, compatible theme. But sometimes you think you've written a song and you just rearrange the lyrics to another song.
I would add to that, when you do this, you be careful about putting stuff out on social media too soon, because there will be copycats, and you're going to have people.
He'll take just enough.
We've had that happen, recording songs and changing it up, whatever. But I would just say, it doesn't take long. There's an example. I won't tell who it was, but an example. One night I was flipping through online surfing and watching videos, and heard someone sing and was just blown away by their voice and this amazing song that they were singing. I think, and it almost sounds like an old gospel type song. And then I clicked on another great song. And I'm thinking, are these old songs that I've never heard of? I mean, just some. And then he clicked on another great song, just old Pentecostal camp meeting style. I don't want to give too much away. And so as I'm listening to all these, I texted her. I said, this guy is unreal. Where did these songs come from? I mean, his voice was amazing. Songs were incredible. And then I realized that there was another person that was writing all these songs. It wasn't as gifted as a vocalist. And while her videos were going out almost as a joke, his were going out and incredible, same song,
different delivery.
And of course everybody was saying, you got to watch this hilarious video, and it was the same song that this guy was singing and blown away by. And I could give you some examples, but I don't want to slight anybody. But I'm just saying, bringing somebody really skilled on board will bring life to anything.
Sure.
And even if you have part of a song, don't be afraid to have some
And if you have
input.
a team that's willing to sing your song in church, the first run, we'll do a song that's a dry run. We're launching the little boat, the little ark of, the baby out into the water. This is my baby, go. And sometimes it's going to tip over. Sometimes it's going to sail beautifully. Sometimes it's going to take on water. And you realize, okay, that didn't really fly, but how it felt was if we would flip this bridge, or we would, cut that vamp out, or whatever, after you tried on in a real life setting and then begin to edit it. But getting to that stage is,
it's
that's
tough,
light years from your closet and a notebook, So, I don't know.
I think especially when, if you're not musically inclined, I've found that sometimes it's hard to portray it to the team or to the musicians, because it's, how do I share with you what's in my mind?
Most every producer will ask you for a reference. What does this song make you feel like? Even if the song's not spiritual, if it has the same energy, the same tempo, if they can hear a reference of the same type of song, the same energy, the same changes, then they can kind of get a peek into your head rather than just cold turkey, because it's quite impossible. Because I'm in the same boat. I'm not a musician. I mean, I can tinker, but in my mind, I'm hearing all this big stuff and boom, 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 boom. It's like trying to explain to the automotive repair guy what your car sounds like. And it's like Savannah, when she's writing a song now, she's gaining confidence. I want you to build it, blah, 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 blah. No, cut, pop, pop. It's just, this has never happened before. You're creating this out of nothing. But she's trying to convey to them what she's hearing in their head. They're learning, okay, that's what you mean, and that's what you feel. But it's something that has to be cultivated individually. But it's
Start
still
young.
a process.
Start young is the key.
And get over yourself.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself out there.
I think that's huge. I think that's really big, because I do think our insecurities can sometimes definitely get in the way of where God wanted that song to go.
Crouch through a way.
Yeah, no, that's
blood will never lose its power. Forward reaches. In the garbage can. How many songs are in the garbage can? That goes both ways. He had to keep going, but he also needed somebody to encourage him. So someone may be watching that's not the writer, but they know someone who is, that they could be a sounding board, a voice of encouragement. Instead of making him feel stupid or blowing him off, that's pay attention. Maybe there's something there.
I would say to the encouragers, I stay out of our musicians' way, even though I know a little bit about music, but I kind of stay out of it. But if you are an encourager, and depending on your personality type, be very cautious about giving too much advice in the dry run. These people are tiptoeing into the water. They are scared to death. If you give them critique on their first flight, they'll never fly again. And so celebrate. They'll figure it out.
It's really coming along. Yeah, I like that.
And build them up. Celebrate the good.
There's great potential here.
Whatever you celebrate, you'll duplicate. So celebrate the fact, if nothing else, celebrate the fact that they wrote a song, period. And
that they shared it.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
Huge, yeah.
I'm telling you, it's, and my family's not the only people in our church who write songs. But some people give us just something very meager, and we work with it. And people think they have to have the whole.
All the parts.
All the parts worked out. But that's part of the fun, is get 3 or 4 singers, and let's work on a vocal arrangement. Should be you sing your part, you try. What if alto side lead, and have a little, workshop where you put all the puzzle pieces together and help. It's a lot of fun if you get some collaboration. But again, if you don't get past vulnerability and sharing, you can't ever get to that point.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So I know you guys have been in that arena of songwriting for a very long time, but as a church and as the UPC, I feel like we're seeing a lot of more original songs coming out,
It's remarkable.
which is amazing.
It's a
It
cultural
is
shift.
awesome.
It
Yes.
has not been this way for generations. If ever, even when we were writing our own music, it was a select few at the top.
Mhm.
Back, I'm talking the Lady Wolf days.
Yeah.
Mark
you had a
Condon.
few, and
Yeah.
Mark Condon had an awesome season, contributed so much, but he was an anomaly. I mean, he was one of a few. But to have all these albums coming out and all this apostolic music coming out, and people are using it at all the conferences I've been to lately, you could almost put on an entire conference and
I
only
think you
use
can.
apostolic music.
Yeah.
But at the same time, doing that, but staying grounded, like I keep saying, in doctrine and an experience. These are all highly produced, well done,
Yes.
and they can become intimidating.
Yeah.
Pentecost was in the early days after Azusa Street, the Spirit-filled churches. They were the only ones that had music. People would bring their instruments. That's how you got people walking up to the platform with their, guitars and accordions and stuff. And it was loud, and the doctrine didn't draw them. The music and the experience and the enthusiasm and the being spirit-led and the just abandon and worship. That's what set us apart back then. And if we're not careful, we'll lose that. I don't know what the word is for it, but I won't say flexibility, but that authenticity where it's not just a performance. Turn the lights down, y'all. Look at us. We have a lot of observers, but not a lot of participation. And so songs have to be, we're congregationals anymore, where the whole church is singing. Look around. Open your eyes. Look at their mouth. Are they singing along?
Is it just the 1/3 front of the church?
Is it the mosh pit only?
Yeah.
Because you've got a whole group of people that you need to bring to Jesus too. Yeah. And so if those songs aren't hitting it, and apostolic writers are good, all that, but the apostolic experience trumps that.
Yeah.
A blast apostolic song, but does it still allow for breakthrough? Does it still create an atmosphere of worship?
Yeah, one of my favorite things when I lead worship, one of my favorite things to do sometimes is just to cut and just have a congregation. It's amazing.
Yeah.
There is a shift that
There
happens
is.
when they get involved, and you just hear this unison choir.
Definitely.
It's almost, and sometimes when I'm doing this, I'm like, I know not everyone is a singer. I know there's some off singers out there, but when we're all singing together, it just sort of
it's one accord. It's unity.
It's something I think a lot of times worship leaders forget, and that is that people get a breakthrough the moment that they personalize the lyrics.
100%.
They have to personalize the lyric. In that moment, it's not just the tune. I know this song. They have to make it personal between them and God in that moment. Consecrational. It has to be devotional.
Perfect example. A couple Sundays ago, it was a tough service. I mean, we thought the songs that we thought were going to be breakthrough were like, it was good. It was okay. Anybody would probably think this is awesome, maybe, because it was high energy, it was quality. But we hadn't had a breakthrough moment. I was like, when is it going to come? Sometimes I'll go the first song, middle song, maybe it's the preaching this time, maybe it's the altar. But if we get to the very end, it still has to happen. Guess what? We're not going home because we're going to get there. But it hadn't happened, and the set list was like the 2 choir songs. We already everything else we'd done. First choir song was "We Lift Our Hands in the Sanctuary." Never had a breakout with it. It could happen. And the second song was Todd Delaney's Psalm 3. Strong Tower is he's a strong tower. He's a strong tower. And so we all the way through, it was going really good. At the very end, we're saying, "He's a solid rock, and I will dwell in your house." And I'm directing this guy's anointed worship leader, again, another one that's been here since he was kindergartner, grew up here. We're just thinking about the times we're living in and what a blessing it is to be in the house of the Lord. And I was just thinking about him growing up, and I want my kids to stay in the house of the Lord, that he's a solid rock. Everything else is shifting sand, but I know. And I started thinking about these things and started getting overwhelmed and hardly even direct. And then other people I could tell, they were like, yeah, he's a solid rock. He's our foundation. I will dwell in the house. I will. And young people were saying, I will dwell in your house. And it wasn't just a song. It was a proclamation for them personally. And one by one, to their knees, walking down. Service was over. I mean, we were laid out.
Yeah, we have preaching.
It's because I think we just crossed over into understanding it became an individual message and more than just a choir. It became personal, and it leveled us. And those moments are incumbent upon the worship leader or pastor or whoever to reach for those moments and to help create them.
Yeah.
Wow. No, that's beautiful. It's amazing. I think you guys have said so much. I think we can just continue going. We can get so deep into this, and we didn't even touch on.
I do want to say,
Yes.
we didn't even touch on what?
Oh no, I was gonna say like just like worship, like in the home or personally, like outside.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Anointing isn't cheap. It comes from consecration.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Levites, the first time they tried to bring or David, when they tried to bring the ark back and Uzzah died and all that boo, they did it wrong. They didn't do it God's way. It was only supposed to be carried by the Levites. And when they finally got it right, it says and it was supposed to be carried. It wasn't supposed to be convenient. It was supposed to be carried on their shoulders to the people. So they had to consecrate themselves first before they were able to bear the burden to bring in the glory of the Lord. So that consecration has to happen before you can carry the glory of the Lord into the congregation. And consecration is elimination. Take that away, eliminate this, it's separation. And that happens personally.
Yeah.
And private worship and corporate worship, both essential, but they affect each other. If there's no private worship, your corporate worship is going to reveal that's going to stink.
Yeah, very shallow.
Think about if you have a little fire burning over here, you got one over here, you got how many in my choir? 80 little fires building over here, or you got a bunch of dead wood. You get a whole bunch of dead wood together. What do you got? A whole bunch of dead wood. You get a bunch of little fires together. What do you got?
Yeah.
An inferno. But we're all coming together. Dead wood. So in the first hour and a half of church.
Yeah, trying to
start that fire that you should have brought.
Yeah.
To the service from your home, from your personal consecration, from your prayer time. But we're so busy praying the leaders through every single service that we can't, because other people don't know how to start a fire. They're coming in off the street. We've had 69 people get the Holy Ghost in the last 5 weeks. People from randomly, literally off the street. They don't know how to start a fire. Yeah. They're coming in to feel the fire that it is our job to provide. Right. That's literally our purpose. Yeah. And send the fire. We need more fire. No, God, there's not a shortage of fire. There's a shortage of stuff to burn. Yeah. There's not sacrifices what causes the fire is going to come. Yeah. He'll consume whatever we offer up. Yeah. There's no fire famine in heaven.
Yeah, all fire and worship. Actually, in the tabernacle plan, everything started with a brazen altar where death took place. And I think
more of you. It's like more of you.
Yeah.
That's where it starts. Yeah.
It's less of us. Less of us.
Well, he wants more of us.
Yeah.
Which means less for me, more for him.
Yeah. So there has to be a dying.
And the old songs. Don't abandon the old songs. You want to talk about it? I just want to say it, but go ahead.
Hymns. Yeah, I love hymns.
But do them well.
Yes.
Okay.
Last question. You guys have had a choir for how long?
Well, for 20 years, because when we were borrowing someone's youth room, had no air conditioner, I had 12 people that I was able to get up there, and we sang to a soundtrack, Shout to the Lord. Oh, the earth. We were going to have a choir. It was probably just really an ensemble. I called it a choir.
That vision thinking.
Exactly. Always think. And we're never a small church. We're a growing church. We're just a small music department. No, you're a growing music department. I made a schedule for places for people I didn't even have because I expected God to fill that. We're going to grow to that. We're making a schedule. It's the same 3 people every week. Why are you making a schedule? Because we're going to need one. It won't be you every week, 6 months from now or a year from now. We don't have a bass player. Why is there a bass player listed? Because I'm making room. I'm building a spot.
Think in steps. Always think in steps.
Bigger than you are. Can we operate like this, just haphazardly when we're double this? No, so let's start acting double now. Yeah. Get organized, get planned, get your communication. We have group meet where we talk, we exchange ideas. We have a collaborative culture. It's not my way or the highway. I want to hear what they think and they make it better. Part arrangements, we talk about it. Yeah. Sometimes it's annoying if that's not your leadership style, but everybody has buy-in to the process. Yeah. I take song submissions from people, all that kind of stuff. But direction matters just as much as accomplishment.
Yeah.
And recruitment too. Invite people.
Well, I'm just saying, though, direction matters much. If I were to take 2 pieces of paper and lay them out on the floor and say, I want you to come stand on this piece of paper and make it to that one without touching the floor between, it would be impossible. Yeah. But if I place some more in between, then it becomes an easy process. But still, you have to know where you're going in order to know where to put the paper. Exactly. I think a lot of times we are so reactive in our planning of church services and developing ministries, that we're not thinking, what do I eventually want to do? I would encourage any worship leader, any pastor, anyone that's service leader, think about where you're going, man. What do you want the church to be? What do you want the music program to be? Have you written it down? Have you established that? And then what steps can you afford to take right now? What steps are you equipped and have the personnel to take right now to move you in that direction? And like she was saying, it might just be creating a set list. It might be starting a preteen class with worship or something that, they're playing instruments. But start something that moves you in that direction, even if you're not capable of making it to that point.
Yeah. And you answered my question, because my next question was going to be, how do we, if we wanted to create it, almost like revives. I feel like there's some churches that still have choirs, but not. I feel like choirs used to be so much more in the church.
Disappearing.
Choirs are so important, even if they're small. I think, I'm not, okay, we were always, and we go through seasons where the numbers drop and they go up, but it's really a great place to build community and unity. I think you just have to just start. You'd be surprised, even if it's once a month, and if it's a busy church or whatever, go in seasons. Like, I let the choir have, I think, 6 weeks off recently, which is like super weird. And then you bring the choir back, and it's exciting, and you're recruiting, and it's more exciting, and you invite people. And I invite men leading in worship is so powerful, especially just in the choir. What an example to the families. Or people come in to visit your church and they look up there and they see there's room for me here. I may not want to be a frontline singer, but I think I could see myself in one of those rows, and even first time guests, like, how do you be in the choir? I'm glad you asked, and they could look like, who knows what their level of standard is, or whatever you call it. But we welcome that. We're very upfront with our expectations. We have covenants that they have to,
that's what I was going to add in about.
They have to agree to be in that ministry.
So people that are listening that are apostolic, we're a little bit different. Let's admit it. We don't just take people off the street and throw them up on the platform. And that's a big concern in a lot of pastors is, I don't want to use new people because obviously they haven't bought into everything we believe. Now, there's a couple of core things that we ask. We ask that they're tithers. We ask that they have experienced new birth, and faithful to church and abstain from gossip. Those are our core requirements for membership. But then these ministry covenants are it's a way of developing your team and sort of keeping control, because a lot of pastors worry about this because they feel like, well, man, if I put people on the platform that are brand new, I'm going to lose control. The church is going to be drift off into, whatever, false doctrine. Ministry covenants keep you from doing that. And the way that you do that, pastors obviously have to be involved, and they have to establish what the core things are. The core things are that they expect from people on the platform. And just set it out there without any explanation and require that people sign it. It's behavioral, not revelational. So basically, when people, if they agree to do this, I don't care if they understand why.
My daughter worked for Chick-fil-A. She had to wear this horrible polyester top and these ugly shoes and this visor. She worked there for like a week. But she knew, if I'm going to do this job, this is what I need to wear. I had to comply with this standard of dress or conduct.
If you were to ask the average person in the Pentecostal Apostolic Church, and we're a very conservative church, but we also have a lot of new people. And we wanted to establish an on-ramp. It's all about the town. Find your ministry. And so the only way to do that is to write out the things that matter and ask people to agree to it. The average person in a Pentecostal church could not tell you why they do a lot of the things they do, but they have a willing spirit. They're willing to do it, and they know it's important. We're expecting something of brand new people that we don't expect of our established people. And so what I encourage people to do, we're really, really big on ministry covenants. Every ministry, every department has to have ministry covenants. All those towels, they get interested in ministry. Yes, they are handed an established list of requirements that they have to follow. Now,
It's
order
like a
to,
contract.
it's
What
a,
you
it's
agree to.
yeah, between them and God. We pray over it. It's kind of a spiritual thing, but we remove anything on there that's not enforceable. For example, so many job descriptions I've seen with churches, when they present them, they'll say, how do mine look? And inevitably, they have, yes, they have must maintain the fruit of the Spirit. And I'll ask them, well, how many people have you kicked out of choir because they weren't meek?
Yes.
It's not measurable.
It's not measurable. It sounds good. Get rid of that, because eventually, I think it's research says that if you give people 1 to 2 things to do, 1 to 2 tasks, they'll do both of them. If you give them 5 tasks, they'll do 2 of them. If you give them 10 tasks, they'll do none. So everything becomes white noise.
I gotta have some humor.
Everything becomes white noise. If everything is equally as important, then nothing is important. So narrowing, having pastors sit down and say, okay, I'm willing, I'll let this happen. For some of our ministries in the church, such as choir, it's basically, you look like an apostolic when you're on our campus at all times.
That's the choir's different than the praise team.
Not the praise team, but the choir. And it's great because new people that want to get on board, get involved in ministry, it gives them a very quick on-ramp. Like, this is what I've got to do. You got it. I can do that.
Don't be like just up front. So do you have to take my earrings off? Yes, ma'am. You got to take your earrings off. You got interest? You need to go buy some. We're a holiness church, and when you're on the property, these are the expectations.
We don't try to sit down and teach them a Bible study on it at that moment. We're going to have a series every year. We're going to, there are going to be another Bible studies, but for this, it's just black and white. This is the rule. Here you go. And then what I would say is, if they go through those things and think, oh man, number 8, is that a big deal? Yeah, it's a big deal. I'm sorry. Well, but good news. We'll find you, if you don't want to do this ministry, we'll find you another ministry. We don't scratch off anything for anybody. This is established.
You sing so good, I'm gonna let that slide.
Yeah, you can't.
Try to keep it consistent.
But just be very, casual about the presentation, and people jump on board. Just give it up.
It's a discipling tool.
Yeah.
And it's like, if they'll come and say, why? Let's work on it. Now, with my praise team, they do a covenant. We have a meeting every year. This is like the longest interview in the world. You have to edit the mess out of it. So every year, everybody is pretty much not fired, but their contract is null, and they have to re-up. And so they take that as a moment to think, okay, look at the season of my life. Am I working crazy overtime?
Yeah, it's like a
am I
very
having a baby?
reflection.
Yeah, it's like, where am I in my life? It's not like the end of my life, I'm in this ministry, but let's stop and reevaluate.
Yeah.
And so we have a orientation annual meeting where we recommit, and we look at everything again. Sometimes I have to add new things. Social media used to not be on my thing. There's all kinds of stuff that we have to add. But once they sign that, they re-sign or don't sign, it's also awesome time for recruitment to come, and we can talk about auditions later if we ever do this again, because that's become a new part of my process, which took me years.
Explain social media, why social media would be on. How does that?
Because when you're on the praise team, you're a billboard. You're marketing for our church all the time, and you give. If they see you one way, on the beach, whatever, and then you come to church, you can't unsee that. It's like. It devalues. They lose their credibility, and so
leadership has veto power over anybody on the.
So you have to friend me or let me like your pages, your TikToks, whatever, and you signed up for this, and I'm not going to get in your business uninvited or without permission, but I will gently, in a loving way, be like, hey, I don't know if you know it, but the music in the back of this little cooking video has some bad language, or that outfit is just not.
And I love that accountability.
They have to be accountable. Yeah.
On practical things that matter, because that's what most pastors are dealing with, those kind of issues. Yeah. And as long as you have that spelled out in your ministry covenants, it's easy to deal with.
Punish, if someone shows up one day and their hair's trimmed, and I'll be like, okay, I can embarrass them, but I got to deal. That's a confrontation, but I'm not mad at them. That's a leaf. There's a root there. There's an understanding that's not there that I thought was there. So I'm gonna, let's take a break. Let's sit down and have a Bible study about this and let's grow until you're ready. You're a little bit ahead of yourself on this commitment, or you've lost your whatever. It doesn't have to be a conviction, it's obedience issue, but let's, not I'm gonna sit you down for 6 months because you know better than that. It's, hey, what's really going on?
Because there's something behind it.
Yes. And a lot of times it's marital problems, it's submission issue, and they're just, and they're acting out in a certain way. But I'm not just
pressure,
a worship leader. I'm more
there's-
worried about their soul. What's
Wow.
going on here? And
Yeah.
to make sure we all look good.
Yeah.
Don't want anybody calling us a hypocrite. What about her?
Yeah.
What's happening with her? So that
It's not
approach
a
of-
personal insult to you as a leader when that kind of stuff happens. It can be a
it's
moment of teaching.
it's SOS. It's a
Right.
Yeah.
what's going on, and maybe they never do fully get it, and they're not ready ever again. Sometimes you sit them down, they fix it, and they're right back, and they're stronger, and they're more confident in their belief, and they can defend it now before whatever. So there's things like that. That's our approach to it. Has always been like that.
That's great. That's so awesome. Well, I don't want to take more of you guys' time.
That's
We've
all right.
been
My
here for
daughter's
a long
blowing up my
time. I'm
phone,
so
so-
sorry, but thank you so
You
much.
can
for
tell we're
sitting
very
down.
passionate
Oh,
about
no,
it,
I love
and I'm
it.
sorry if we've gone on. And I
No,
feel
I-
like we have not exhausted the subject by a long time.
No, because even you talking about marriage, I was like, we can go into a whole
Yeah.
thing about marriage and
Yeah.
ministry, or just
Yeah.
in the music
Yes.
ministry. There's a lot there. So, but hopefully, if I make my way down to Texas, I'll give you guys a
Yes.
call.
We would
can
love
sit down. I'd love to.
Thank
But
you.
thank you so much.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Y'all
We're
come
honored
see
to
us in
be.
Texas, come to Zion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And share
When
this.
is it? When is
Yeah.
It's
plug it.
September 30th, October 1st and 2nd this year. And we don't have the dates for next year, but the night services are free if you don't want to come as a registrant. But we encourage, even as young as 10, if they're interested in music, start building that culture and that interest young. And we have 10-year-olds running our cameras, our lyrics,
That is so
singing. I mean,
cool.
we just want it to, because the world's pulling at their talent, and we want to provide a safe place. And any church of any size can do that. All our kids are down front worshiping in our worship services. Looks like a big jungle gym. Half of them don't know what's happening, but they're going to catch
Oh,
it.
yeah.
It's going to become, that's the norm. And before you know it, they'll be falling out in groups, praying like, hey, they tapped in.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't if they're in the back row on their iPad.
Yeah.
No, this is what we do. This is time to worship.
Yeah.
And you build that culture, not just there, but like you said, in the home. And the end, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So come to Zion, that's all I was
Yes.
going to say.
And share this podcast.
Yes, thank you so much. Worship. I didn't even tell you our name is Worship Mindset.
Worship mindset.
Yeah, that's the
Wonderful.
name of the
Wow,
podcast.
that
Awesome.
is that's a whole thing right there you could unpack.
Oh yeah,
It is mindset big time.
Yeah,
That you got to manage your own mind first.
definitely. But again, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast with Pastor and Sister McKee. Go ahead and leave a comment down below on what were some of the things that you enjoyed hearing them speak about, maybe some of the stuff that stood out to you. If you want to see the last podcast that I had with Eddie James, go ahead and click here. Please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and we'll see you guys on the next one. God bless.